Hello! So today I'm starting a new reading vlog. It's been a while since we've done a vlog, but I'm reading 3 books that are all outside of my comfort zone, outside of what I typically read, and we're going to document it. So I thought that this was going to be a cozy reading vlog, but I've already started the first book and I don't know that I would categorize it as cozy, but that's okay. It is outside of, well, now it's kind of exactly what I want out of every book. Anyway, in this vlog, I'm going to be talking about the Eyre affair, which is categorized as literary fiction under the publisher. I don't know. Well, I think that's fair. I think it's a fair categorization because it does so many things. So anyway, the Eyre affair. Then we have Fortune of Small Tales. It's on the screen. Teller of Small Fortunes. Teller of Small Fortunes, which I think would be categorized under like a cozy fantasy, but we'll see once I read it. And then finally, You Make It Feel Like Christmas, which is a romance. So those are the books that I'm reading during the vlog. During this first check-in, I want to let you know that I have started the Eyre affair and I love it so much. So I'm only a third of the way into the book and I still can't really talk to you much about the main plot. The description of the book talks about jumping into novels and, you know, a mystery and someone who's stealing characters from novels, which has been touched on, but it's not really begun in earnest yet. And I don't really want to just summarize the back description of the book, so I'll just tell you about what is happening in the first third of the book and why I love it. So this story is set in an alternate history, I think it's 1985 maybe, in England, and there's this 100-year war that's been going on and that it has affected the social and political landscape in many, many ways. We're following a protagonist who she's a very ambitious protagonist and has done a lot with her life up to this point, and is very well respected in certain circles. And she also comes from a very eccentric family. So first of all, she has a pet dodo bird. So in this alternate history, a lot of technological advancements have happened as well. There's time travel, there's gene splicing, there's, when we're first introduced to her uncle, she checks in on him and says, hey, how's the memory erasure experiment that you've been working, or invention that you've been working on? And he goes, what are you talking about? And she's like, you were quite a ways into it the last time we spoke. And he's like, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. I've never done that. And then he just moves on. So first of all, I love the prose of this story so far because it's not rushing through anything. It's not trying to have like a laugh track in the story, but the dialogue like that has obvious implications like that hold a lot of humor, in my opinion. There's also a lot of humor around names. The naming of people are sometimes literary references or sometimes a play on words. There's also the way we're given information, to me, is very humorous. Like Thursday was born on a Thursday, so she's named Thursday. Her mom was born on a Saturday, but she was named Tuesday. Her dad wasn't ever born because of a certain thing that he did, which made his history erased from the books. And so that's the way we're told. But the way it's presented, you could just say what day he was born. He's your father. But the way it's presented, we learn this information about her father through this sentence that's just stated, and we move on. And I just think that type of storytelling is so clever and so enjoyable. It makes me want to just sit with this story, take my time with it, and soak in every sentence, because the way the sentences are constructed and the way the information is given is just very witty, and I'm having so much fun with it. There's also, as I said, literary references around every corner. Many, I'm sure, that are going over my head, and many that I am picking up on and appreciating so much, how they're just kind of like tucked into the details all around the story. I've only spoken of the eccentricities of her uncle, but her father too is quite the character. He's been lost to time. So he's always somewhere and sometime, but we just never know where and when. And so randomly, he can just pop in and visit with his daughter and ask questions and, you know, like be a part of her life for a minute, and she'll have a nice conversation. Like, he pauses time. She's in the middle of a conversation with someone else, and then time slows and stops, and then dad's there and he asks questions about something, and she'll respond. She'll have a nice conversation with him, and then he'll just pop back out, and then time begins again in the conversation that she was already having, and it'll kind of disrupt things. And I just finished reading this scene that I loved, where she was having a conversation with her ex. So she also has this relationship where she was in a relationship. It's ended, but it's clearly not completely done. At least there's lingering feelings there. So she's having this conversation with her ex that she hasn't had a conversation with in a long time, and then from his perspective, which we're in her perspective, so we watched it all happen in real time, but from his perspective, he notices the kind of interruption in her demeanor, and so he goes, "Oh, did your father visit?" Because he didn't see the time be interrupted and the conversation be had, but he's, I guess, accustomed to this, and so he just knows that this is the situation. I feel like I'm doing a poor job of explaining this story because I'm just telling you all these tiny little details, but that's because that's what I have right now. We're just building a lot of set pieces. We're building the environment and the world, and I love it. As someone who loves a good chaotic story, this is such a good chaotic story because while anything could happen at any time, it also has a lot of establishing features that make it feel cohesive and intentional, and not like the author is just doing whatever because he felt like it at the moment. It all feels very, very intentional while also having that very British chaos, which I love so much. So this has been, at least the beginning of the story, has been the perfect story for me. I'm nervous once we get all the establishing and the ground laying done and the story starts moving more into the mystery. I'm nervous it's gonna lose me because I'm not as much of a mystery reader, which is why I thought that this was going to be outside of my comfort zone, but the charming chaos has me in love with it. And I'm just worried that once the story properly begins, that's when I will lose my love for it. But so far, what a great experience it's been. It's been so charming. Anyway, that's me at the beginning of the Eyre affair, so I will hopefully be able to tell you more about the story rather than just the setting in the next check-in. So, welcome to the vlog. Okay, so I finished the Eyre affair, and my final thoughts on this book are overwhelmingly positive. Even when the plot began, it was so much fun. So the plot idea of this book is that there are these people that are able to go into books and alter the ending. So let's say Jane Eyre has been stolen and altered, and now the ending is completely different. But then there's also these portals that allow you to go into your book and into your favorite books and change the things that happen. There's time travel, there's gene splicing, which I'm pretty sure I mentioned some of these things in the previous clip, but there's the opportunity to, the world is open, and it's open primarily from the perspective of literary nerds. So Thursday is hunting down a criminal that's tampering with stories, but she's also interacting with characters from Jane Eyre and having full conversations with literary figures. I don't want to talk too much about the plot because truly the plot doesn't begin until like 2/3 of the way through the book, maybe even further. It is the plot of the story. I don't want to oversell the plot because I really think that it takes a backseat to the literary references, the puns, the play on words, the clever wordplay that is dripping throughout this book. This is a book that is so highly stylized, that is full of parallels and of quippy references that you may get or may not get depending on if you've read the book that it's referencing. There's fourth wall breaks, meanings behind the things that are said. This is a book that you really have to try to keep up sometimes, or at least I did. I felt like I was trying to keep up with the cleverness of this story, and I completely understand why this would be just the worst reading experience for some people, because it is so chaotic, and because there's double meaning behind so many things, and because it is something that is so quippy and so witty and so quick that it's easy to almost feel left behind in the midst of the chaos. But it's also, it has so many things that connect and that force the reader to not take anything as it's laid out on the surface, which made it so much fun. Like, I don't think I'm smart enough for this book, but it still didn't really leave me behind because there was so much for me to pick up on anyway. I listened to this on audiobook and I regret it. I wish I had a physical copy of this story so that I could hold it in my hands and just take in every word as it comes. And I mean, not that I wasn't taking in the story through audio form, I just prefer physical reading personally. And I would have been able to, I think I would have been able to be even more immersed in it all and underline everything and interact with the chaos as it's coming. I hope at some point I can find this book in a secondhand shop or something and just be able to read it again and take in every single little detail, because I so enjoyed myself with this story. If you follow my videos closely, especially videos where I'm more critical of stories, then you probably know that I can be really annoying when it comes to characters that don't pick up on things that seem obvious, you know, like something just played out and then this new element is introduced and the character's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, the clue was right there. Like, it was right there. Why are you not seeing it? It's obvious. It's in your life. It makes sense to me. Why does it not make sense to you? Like, I can get really wrapped around the axle about things like that. And there is a little bit of that happening in this book, but there's so much happening that I love so dearly that I get over it. Anyway, if you're a fan of Hitchhikers, Discworld, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, One Piece, if you're a fan of chaos, do please try this book. I beg you. I will be reading more from this author. I'm trying to decide if I should read more in this series or if I should try more series from this author. So do let me know if you're a fan of his work, if this series continues to be excellent like this, or if it kind of drops off. And if that's the case, then I want to try his other books. But I know that I want to keep exploring him. Anyway, after just finishing this book, I want to give it a 4.5 because of that tiny little hang up I had. But as time passes, I might bump it up to a 5 because I've just loved it so much. I also want to talk about Teller of Small Fortunes because I have started that book as well. And I already really like it right off the bat. And this is the book that I was the most, of my reading of the month, that I was the most like, ooh, it may not work out for me. But it's really charming so far. It's very cozy, it's very wholesome, it's very feel-good, all things that should be red flags, all things that should say, oh no, Murphy's gonna hate it, she has a cold black heart. But I actually really am enjoying this a lot, even though it reads very... Joanna and I are reading this together, and she mentioned that it reads young, and it's not a point of critique, it's just a point of observation, and I agree. And the way I process that is I could pick this book up and I could read it to my son without any editing, without skipping any lines, without having to explain anything, and I think he would get as much out of it as I'm getting out of it. And that isn't to say that it's not enjoyable to an adult, but rather that it's enjoyable to a large audience. And so far, anyway, it's just very, very wholesome feeling. And as far as the themes of, you know, connection and finding your place and having people that you belong with that seem to be just right there on the surface from the very start of the book, it doesn't come off like it's going to go dark or excessively off the rails. It may be a predictable read, but it's still a charming read. So far, we have a main character who is a teller of small fortunes. I know, really surprising plot element. She travels around and she can, for a penny, she can tell a small fortune. Really early on, we see her telling a fortune, and I really like the way she tells it, the way she has to follow the lines to be able to see through to the end to the small fortunes, but it's described as her having of the life-altering fortunes also being right there on the surface for her to read too. And in fact, those are really indentured. Those are really deep lines, and they draw her like anchors. That's the way it was described. So she has to make a choice. She electively is a small fortune teller. It's not a lack of skill. It's a choice that she denies those large fortunes that draw to her, and she instead chooses the small fortunes. Now, there is the element of she's trying to remain under the radar, and if she tells a large fortune, then she's going to make a bigger ripple in this town, and she's going to need to leave sooner. She's going to have to move a lot more than she really wants to. So there is that element to it, but I'm suspicious that there's more to it than just that, because we also have indications that there's something that has happened in her past. So when she started talking, she's grouped up with these two reformed thieves. One is a reformed thief, and one is he was a enforcer, I think was the word used for him. But these two have paired up because one of them, his daughter was kidnapped, and he's trying to find her. So they've paired up, and they're trying to find the one guy's daughter. And when she starts talking about her past to them, she tells them details, and then she stops. In her mind, she goes, "Is that true? I'm pretty sure it is." And then it describes her as not being positive about her past because her memories are like scenes and feelings that don't quite fit together to make a full picture. A happy childhood, yes, but one that doesn't quite fit. So that has me thinking two things. One, when she pulls into the future to tell a fortune, it pulls from her past. Like, that's the negative effect of this particular magic. And that's why she specializes in small fortunes, because she doesn't want to pull so much from her past that she loses it entirely. Or two, that there's some sort of trauma wrapped up in her past that holds her back from telling those large fortunes. So that's where I am now with her and with her journey. I honestly don't even remember why she's traveling. Have we been told yet? I can't remember. I've been so interested in the mechanics around her fortune telling because the way it's told is very immersive. I think like it's very visual. And so as she's doing these things, I like trying to pick up more clues and more details about what is required of her and the mechanics around it, as well as trying to pick up clues on her past. And each fortune tells us a little bit more. Like there was, that might be a spoiler to give an example of how the fortunes are telling us. But as she is reading a fortune and then the person is responding and saying, oh, that must mean, X, we're learning more. It's giving us more clues about all these things. I'm probably focusing on the wrong things. On a cozy fantasy, I'm probably focusing on the wrong elements of the story to take in and enjoy. Like I said, thematically, find your place, find your people, embrace life, probably embrace the small things of life is more than likely going to be, a theme in the story by the end. I'm liking it. I'm probably liking it for all the wrong reasons, but I think that the characters are charming. I think that the writing is good, and I'm enjoying myself. So that's the introduction for this book. Welcome to the vlog. You've already been welcomed. You're not welcome.
You'll see. Whoop.
Hello. The camera is technically set up in the same spot as it was for the last vlog clip, but I'm gonna just need you to pretend you don't notice. Teller of Small Fortunes is done. I finished it last night, and it was really sweet. This is one of those books that should have been a fail for me. It should have absolutely been a 2-star. I should have been grumpy about it. I should have said to you, I'm not the person to follow for this kind of recommendation, so don't trust me. And yet, I really enjoyed it. It was really charming. Not only because the characters were great, there was this amazing found family between our main character, whose name I think is Teo, as well as the two mostly reformed bandits, as well as an unlikely baker and a cat, and they're all traveling together. And this is very much a book about, as cheesy as it sounds, it's a book about journey, not just because they're constantly on the move, but also because there's really not that much plot happening here, and it's primarily about the personal journeys that the characters go on. And because of that, there's a lot of little themes that are plucked at, that are are mentioned in the story, that none of them really go extremely deep. None are chosen and then we really dig into, but more so many things. And for that and because the writing is very good and because of the way it's executed, I think that just about any reader could read this and at least pick out one or two themes that they personally feel a connection to and can pull at that thread and discuss it more deeply themselves. I know for Joanna and I, we both plucked at certain threads and just related back to it and said, oh man, I remember learning this particular lesson too when I was, X age. I remember going through a personal experience very similar to this, or processing things really similar to this. And it was just very easy for us to take certain plot points or certain scenes or certain ideas that are just kind of presented and pull at them and end up pulling them out even a little bit further than the book did, which I thought was really charming. And I think that the book did a really good job of giving us just enough for us to want to keep talking, even though the book is ready to continue its journey on. There were a lot of really fun scenes. Like there was this determinist troll, and when it met Tao and they mentioned that Tao could tell fortunes, the troll was like, oh, the horror. Oh, how awful that you would see the lines that are determined, that are unmovable, that can't be shaken, that can't be shaped. And it was like this I'm adding the voice. There is just this very fun scene that also painted a picture of different perspectives and different responses to life. And Tao had a line about you could either do nothing and be miserable or do nothing and be happy. But there were a lot of little things like this throughout the journey that made us reflect a little bit more on something. It's the found family, but it's also, things that follow us through life that could even stop us could stop us from pursuing certain paths because of the trauma that's already happened. Forgiveness, healing, culture being snuffed, language, prejudice, acknowledging the struggles that other people go through, being grateful for what you have. There's a myriad of different things that are touched on in this novel that I think each one, like I said, give you an opportunity to explore even more on your own. So it was a very charming story. It didn't go to any crazy lengths for the plot or for the action or even for the themes. They didn't go that deep, but everything was there enough for you to take it how far you want to. Everything I'm saying makes it sound like it's not a book that I would enjoy. And even my friend, not Joanna, my other friend who doesn't have a YouTube channel, who I also read this alongside of, she said, if I read this before you, I would not recommend this book to you. I don't know why you liked this. I don't either. But I will say that by the end, I was ready. I was ready for the end because it is a very wholesome book. And by the end, I had a bit of a stomach ache. I'm like, okay, that's enough sugar for like a year. I'll take a break now. So, I mean, it was sweet. It was very sweet. And if you like sweet, you will like this book. If you are not a sugar addict, maybe is the metaphor going too far? I enjoyed it. It was 4 stars. I had a nice time. I expected it to be a dud, and I was pleasantly surprised. Oh, right. The other thing. I also started You Make It Feel Like Christmas. This is very short. It's only 200 pages long. It's a Christmas romance. I don't read a lot of romance, but around Christmas time, I usually read one, and this was the one that I picked. And so far, okay, so Star is returning home for Christmas, but she's also returning home for her sister's wedding. And it's not ideal because her sister is marrying her ex who dumped her for her sister. so it was like, I would like to break up. Okay, anyway, your sister's next door? Is that her room just over there? It was bad. It was a bad situation. And now they're getting married and her sister has her in the wedding party and expects her to pack wedding favors and is just like very inconsiderate about the way she's handling everything, and it's awkward. And also Star just got laid off from her job, so there's also I don't want my family to know that I'm generally not doing well in life and feeling a bit like a failure. And also she feels a little bit like an outcast in her sibling group because there's a lot of siblings and they all have their little things, and she's just always kind of felt on the outside. So just a lot of angst going around coming back home. But of course her brother's best friend is there, and you know, they hit it off. So I am 5 chapters in, and they have hit it off. It's so fast. It's crazy fast. It's like, you know, early or instant attraction and instant chemistry are all well and good, but instant romance, you know, sometimes it feels a little bit fast. So there's a cheesiness element, you know, I think there's 6 siblings. They're all named after Christmas elements: Star, Angel, Eve, Gabe. I don't remember all of them, but they're all named after Christmas features, and it's a Christmas romance. So, you know, it's cheesy, and the romance is fast, but it's cute. I'm having a nice time, and there's enough going on with the family too that I feel that there's plenty there that we could potentially do something with that would keep me interested when I feel that the romance is, you know, there's no build-up. So I actually, in order to get this vlog out on Thursday, which is the goal, I have to read this whole book today, which I think is fine because there was a Black Friday sale for Audible and it was $1. So I bought the audiobook for $1. I have the ebook and it's only 200 pages. So, you know, I'm gonna read the book. I'll be back in a little while to tell you about it. Hello, it's me. It's the same day, as I said, and I finished the book. So I won't say much about it here at the end. This will be a very quick final vlog clip because, again, the book was very short, and I feel like I said everything I needed to say at the beginning there. Overall, it did deliver on the more that I kind of expected it to, in the sense that our main character has these aspirations for a career in creative writing that she really felt was never accessible to her, and now that she's had all these life changes that are very inconvenient to her, she now has the opportunity to also pursue those, as well as other things. The romance wasn't just this whirlwind romance that everything was perfect, although it was pretty perfect, where like there were no problems. They also had to work through real life things, like the fact that she was visiting home to see her family, but she doesn't live there. She lives in a totally different state, quite a ways away, and so they would have to work out the dynamics of that. The fact that he runs his mother's business that was passed down to him after she passed away. And so he has to figure out, you know, do I want to run this? Do I want to potentially sell it? What would that mean for me and for the family and for my sister, who's also invested in, you know, these memories that I hold, all that kind of stuff. And then the family dynamics of our main character, Star, who has her own stuff going on, but quickly as she talks with her siblings realizes, you know, I'm not the only one that's kind of struggling here. I'm not the only one that's got stuff going on. And so I really need to be considerate to their needs and be there for them. Even her sister, who was just terrible in this book, they had an opportunity to be able to talk things out. And Star had the opportunity of kind of laying her pride aside because she had every right to just kind of throw everything back in her sister's face. She was able to lay that aside and reconcile with her, which I thought was great. So there was still a lot of really good things going on. Despite the cheesiness, despite the super fast romance, there was still a lot going on that I really enjoyed in this book. Definitely a big emphasis on change, family, decision-making, prayer. This is a Christian romance. And just overall, there was a lot going on here beyond just the whirlwind romance that I still really enjoyed. And I thought the romance was cute too. I mean, just the fact that it was super fast didn't make the romance not cute. So anyway, I'm not a romance buff, so I'm probably not the one to listen to for a recommendation for this, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was nice. It's like a 3.5 for me. I'll round it up to 4 on Goodreads because it was a quick, sweet romance. So those are the books that I read in this vlog. We had The Eyre Affair, which was an absolute hit. Traveling Fortune? What? Teller of Small Fortunes, which was a big surprise. I expected that one to be the one that I was kind of a downer about, which is why I put it in the middle of the vlog. But it was a surprise. With more distance, the sort of like upset stomach, like, wow, that was really sweet at the end. Everything just really just worked out, didn't it? That element of it kind of is weighing on me a little bit more, but I'm going to keep it positive. That was a surprise success. And then, You Make It Feel Like Christmas was cute. Honestly, it was a good romance for me because I usually would want something that's very quick and then I can move on. If it was really long, then I wouldn't have liked it at all. So overall, I'm very positive in this entire vlog. If you've read any of these books, please do chat with me more about them in the comments. If you plan on picking one up, or if you have some thoughts about something that I said in the vlog, please do chat with me more in the comments. I'd love to discuss with you. This is the first vlog I've done in a while, so I hope you enjoyed it. I feel like I'm out of the groove of it, but it was really fun because I love a wrap up. But a vlog, I feel like I can take my time and really discuss the details a lot more, so this was a good time for me at least. Please do chat with me more in the comments. I'll see you again soon. Bye.